Hey, my name is Clay, and I wrote a little bite-sized novelette called Stay on the Line, and it is all about maybe it's about a haunted telephone booth. Ooh, what if a small coastal town gets knocked out by a hurricane, and the only thing left standing is a phone booth? And what happens when you pick up the phone? Oh, I guess you just have to read and find out. I guess you just got to be good. That's the like as long as you can write good stuff and just get it out there. Like that's easy, right? Like that's no biggie.
No trouble
Um
there.
you just have to be Paul Tremblay. You just have to be Stephen Graham Jones. Like do that and the world will orbit around you eventually.
Well, one of the things I'm going to open, I hope you don't mind, I'm having beer while we're talking.
No, no,
Um,
no. How about it?
One of the things that was going to be a topic that we're talking about, so you might as well just do it now because it's kind of organic, is you came up in conversation. I just talked to Joshua Milliken
Uh-huh.
about his book Teleportasm on
Uh-huh.
Shortwave.
Yeah.
Um, and we were just talking about people in the industry and stuff. And your name came up because we were talking about the type of people. Like it's so nice when you see someone who's out there, and especially if their name has a little bit of like, you know, gravity to it.
Uh-huh.
Um, Bringing like enthusiastically promoting other people's stuff. So
Uh-huh.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen a video of you like madly running into a store and pointing your camera at all the different like books on the shelf and everything.
Uh-huh.
And as goofy and fun as that might be for you, like you're reaching people with stuff that maybe they didn't know about before. And
Yeah.
so it's very gratifying to see that type of thing happen. And I see that with you. I see that with um Steve Graham Jones seems to be always like saying, "Oh man, this really impressed me," like that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that was definitely part of my conversation the other day. Was like seeing people like you and other authors like excited about like genuinely saying this is awesome about someone
Yeah.
else's work. I think is one of the best things that I get from social media.
Yeah. I mean, this place is such a cesspool, man. Like, don't like I. I mean, okay. Like, we're having the conversation, and it's so funny because, like, I feel as if those those corny videos were kind of born out of a frustration. Like I was just getting tired of like talking about myself.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
we when you're talking to your publisher and the PR and the marketing people, they're like, you should put yourself out there, like, make some TikTok videos and do all these things that, like, get the word out on your books. And you do those like once or twice and you're just like, oh my God, I hate the sound of my own voice. I hate talking about my stuff. Like it just gets so boring after a while.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
and like I know this is a promo game and like we're all trying to like make a living and like do what we got to do to get to tomorrow, and get people buying our books, reading our books. But like I just got like it's just so like if I was getting bored of hearing myself talk about my books,
Yeah.
I just can't even imagine.
Right.
Like, like at a certain point, you just have to. I mean, like, I'm not. I don't know. Like, I'm not someone who has a big reach, but like for the people who follow me, like if I'm just saying the same thing every day, day after day, it's just gonna be. It's like everyone's gonna tune out. But what I did realize that I really loved to do is like talk about the books that I've read that I really love. And when I was on the road, it all started, and this was just total like happenstance. But I was at there's this amazing bookstore in Toronto called Little Ghosts Books.
Oh, right. Hmm.
It is so friggin' cool. Like they are I mean, it's a horror bookstore. You go in and it's basically just like this massive wall of all of these amazing books. And I, really organically, like I just looked at that wall and I was like, all of my friends or the people that I've met, on the road and kind of doing events, like if they saw this wall of books, they would be like, wow, that's really cool. And the only way I figured like, oh, let's like, I want to show people this wall was to make a video of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like all of a sudden it was like, you know, and the challenge now is to like, I don't want to paint myself into a corner and like feel obligated to like do corny videos, but they're fun. Like it's just
Right.
like like social media exists just for people to be idiots. And like I am okay with the prospect of being nothing but an idiot for I'm okay being goofy and stupid and making a fool out of myself in the name of like some sort of positive uplift. And the only positivity that I can like think of is talking about things that I really get excited about. And that's either books or movies or bands or like those are the things that I love. And I would rather spend time sharing those things rather than like, oh, did you see that new movie? It's so stupid. Like that's just like who, like, I don't know. I just get so, the amount of negativity that you can find on social media and the amount of dependency, like we go to social media all the goddamn time. Like it's just there.
Yep.
And I don't know, like it scares me. So I think for myself, I just need to make it, my little kind of uh, desert island in the social media sphere. I just want to make it like a place of like like books. Like let's talk about books.
Yeah, but I mean, from my personal experience, I'm the worst at promoting myself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no fun in it, and you don't get any joy from saying, please subscribe to my podcast, please rate and review my podcast. That's not what we come here for,
Yeah.
but the thing that I've noticed is kind of what you're saying is like the most engagement I get, the most like attention that comes to me
Yeah.
is when I'm like, check this fucking thing out, and it's someone else.
Yeah.
And then, then it starts a conversation, and then suddenly people are following me and they're, like engaging and commenting, and things roll from there. So I think that you're kind of just doing yourself a favor by saying, this is what I'm excited about. Aren't you excited about it? Or you should be, or whatever. I think there's like the genuine excitement and joy and like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to script and produce and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of really feel it.
Yeah. Totally. And I don't know. I think people's BS meters are pretty fine tuned, so they can kind of sense when like, oh, you're just selling me something, and But I think when it comes from like a genuine place, you sense it, and that's the thing. Like photos and videos and like doing like whatever you want to say, like social, like that you like a TikTok video or a Instagram story or whatever they are. Like, like what I love is that I can go to a bookstore in I mean, you name it, Tennessee or North Carolina or Illinois, and it'll be my first time entering into that place, and I'll be like, this is the coolest shop, and they'll be like,
Yeah.
this is their horror section, or this is their shelf, like look at this shelf, and like look who's face out on this shelf, like I have to imagine 90% of the people who I'm friendly with, like authors that I'm friendly with, they may never go into that bookstore, whatever that
Right.
particular bookstore is. But to see their book on the shelf or face out on the shelf or on the center table, like that,
Mhm.
like I know if someone shared that with me, if it was my book and someone shared that, like, hey, I'm at the airport and look, I see your book out there. That's like the
Yep.
best. That's the best fucking feeling. Like that's like
Totally.
there is nothing like that feeling is just like it's worth its weight. And like to share that with the author, that's, maybe they pay attention, maybe they don't, maybe they're like, oh, that's cool. But like, I don't like it. It makes my day whenever someone does it to me. So like, I'm hoping that it makes someone else's day. But yeah, it's all about like these amazing bookstores.
Have you been to Bucket of Blood in Chicago?
Yes,
Okay,
I have.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Those guys are great.
Oh my
And they
God.
haven't been around long, but they are awesome in their selection. I don't know, like they're really tuned in to what's going on.
Yeah.
Because their selection is like really, really just dead on. There's times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to see if they have this, and they do, and I'm like, how do they even know about this? So yeah.
I was there for like a couple hours. I was on tour back in October, and I went.
Yeah.
I was doing an event at Exile in Bookville.
Exile in Bookville. I was like, oh fuck, because I was like, had something going on that day, and I was like, I could have been at when you were at Bucket of Blood. I could have been there if I knew about it. So I was like, but anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
No, but it was I went. I was like, I made it this far. I have to go to Bucket of Blood. And I ended up buying a DVD of Bad Ronald, because it was like the first time I've ever it was one of the kind of Warner Brother archive DVDs, but it was the first time kind of seeing it in a store, in a shop, and I was like, I have to buy this DVD, and I loved it. And they were so cool. Man, that store, I will go back to that store any old time.
They do a great job, and they definitely support. So I've seen a bunch of people there. Cassandra Kah and Richard Kadri came through when the Dead Take the A Train came out. I saw Cynthia Pelayo there. More recently, Liz Caron, who did the First Edge and First Blood. Or First Light. Sorry. She was recently there. Like, they do a great job with their events and everything too. Yeah.
I think, didn't Jenny Kiefer go through there? She wrote This Wretched Valley.
If she did and I missed it, I'm going to really kick myself.
I think she was in conversation with Cynthia.
Yeah.
But so cool. Hey, let's just talk about cool bookstores. Like, there's so many cool bookstores out there. Like, I feel like we, pick a state. Let's find their cool bookstores.
Well, no, but like that's totally a thing, because you mentioned what's it, Little Ghost?
Yeah.
In Toronto, there's Kelly Link has a bookstore, right? She's got a bookstore on the East Coast there.
And it's in it's in Massachusetts, right? I was gonna say Belmont, Massachusetts. I totally will not be able to pull it out, but
Butcher Cabin Books. Butcher Cabin Books
is amazing.
Like Tennessee or Kentucky or something like that.
Kentucky, yeah.
It's in Kentucky, yeah.
God, that place is so cool. I went there, and it's so cool because it feels like you're kind of walking into someone's living room, because like it has one of those like 70s, 80s like freestanding television sets that like is just like perpetually on. And oh my God, like it has nice little carpeting. Like it feels like you're in the kind of basement of someone, like your friend's parents' house, like it's like, like your kid in the 80s, and like you're like, hey, let's go downstairs and watch, He-Man or something. But then it turns out to be some horror movie. Butcher Cabins is awesome.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not going to tell you I ended up making 4 episodes of my recordings with Josh Mallerman. So there's 4 previous to an episode before the previous one. There are 4 Josh Mallerman episodes, and I can't remember which one, but there was one where it was kind of late in the day and we had kind of been drinking a lot. And it was, I think it's the second one I posted, but there was definitely a moment when we kind of enthusiastically were like, fuck everybody on the East Coast. Everybody on the East Coast is so close together. We're in the Midwest. No one ever comes to the Midwest. So there was definitely a moment of like, the East Coast doesn't know how good they have it.
You're getting territorial on me. You just named like everybody who's going to be at the Paul Tremblay thing in Chicago. Like you just named Cynthia Pelayo, Gus Moreno, Becky Stratford.
I didn't even say Daniel Krause. Yeah.
Daniel Krause doesn't show up. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's like your whole crew.
Yeah, but there's like, you think about the people, even just in horror, that are on the, the east kind of part of the country, the northeast eastern part of the country. It's kind of bananas.
Okay. So name some names. Like who's the East Coast crew?
You're on the East Coast?
Well, okay, yeah, but like who's the biggie to
you got Brian
to
Keene
your
over there in
Tupac?
Pennsylvania.
Brian Keene. Okay.
So there's that. Oh man,
Brian and Clay
on the top of my head.
It is funny because like I do think there is this. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that Mallerman's right. I'm not gonna say there's like some like Sharks versus Jets kind of stuff going on, but I will say we do have Nat Cassidy. We got Aaron E. Adams. We got Rachel Harrison.
You got Rachel. Yep.
I mean, and that's just that's part of the New York crew. Cassandra
Katsu. God damn it.
Alma Katsu is West Virginia. Does that? I mean, like, are we yours? Yeah. Are we saying Northeast? Are we saying like Eastern Seaboard?
Seaboard.
Okay.
I mean, I know that's kind of like Southern, but still.
if you're going down the Mason-Dixon, then that gives us Andy Davidson in Georgia. That
you got Zoya Stage out there in Pittsburgh.
My God, she's in Pittsburgh. Chuck Wendig is somewhere in
Chuck is over there.
He's in Pennsylvania. Riley Sager is in New Jersey, though I don't know if we can kind of claim him, because I know he's Thriller. But I think
for anybody who's getting this audio only, I am turned around looking at my bookshelf to try and find ammo for this argument. Richard Kadri is New York. So is Cassandra Kah.
Sam Rebeline is New York State.
Yeah. Where's Richard Chismar? He's Massachusetts.
Is he Massachusetts? I was going to say Maryland. Ron Malfi is Maryland. You got
Stephen King, buddy.
Maine. I mean, that's I guess, but he's in like the kingdom all on his own. Like he's like
he really is. He's in
that's not even
land.
The land of Annalee. But
anyway. There are some West Coast folk, like I know Keith Rawson is West Coast, and
God, I just finished Devil by Name.
Did you? I have not read that yet, but
oof.
Fever House was so fucking crazy, and I was like, why is I know everybody, I know it got a lot of traction and stuff, but I was like, why is nobody screaming about this fucking insane book?
Yeah.
It was so
Stephen
good.
King is screaming about that book now.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure he's not mad about that.
Yeah. I mean, that book is phenomenal. Like that, like Fever House is like a force of nature. Like that book, like holy moly, it is propulsive, and it's a chunky book. It's like 400 some pages, and it's
not small.
It reads so fast.
And it incorporates so many different things. I talked to Keith and I was like, how do I even talk about this book? Because there's so much going on. There's so many different kind of disparate elements that he weaves together. It's insane, but it's so it's gory and insane, and it's good storytelling, and there's a family love connection element. There's he didn't miss anything. There's government agencies and legendary rock bands. What did he not put in this book?
Yeah. I mean, I remember someone talking to me about the book before I read it, and they're like, "Oh, it's about this punk rock band, and there's this all these kind of talismans and these rituals and incantations." And I remember hearing that and being like, "Okay, that sounds I kind of get that. I can wrap my head around that. It sounds cool." I do have this weird bias against bands in books.
Oh, okay.
It's awful. It's awful. And it has nothing to do with the books themselves, but it is that feeling of okay, we're talking about a fictional band, and my mind immediately goes to like, who is this band in real life? Like it's like
Oh,
I'm
like
like,
what's the analog?
yeah.
Yeah.
But then you read Fever House, and this is my point. This is my thesis. No, like Fever House is one of those books that just kind of ultimately defies any easy encapsulation. Like you can't pitch it. You can't just talk about it in this way that it's like this is what the book is about. Like you have to go for the ride. Because it
Yeah.
is bigger and grander than any one kind of like log line or synopsis or whatever you want to say. Like whatever it says on the back of the book jacket, like it can't do it justice because it is
Right.
epic. It is an epic book. And oh my God. Like I was so ready to like follow those two henchmen, the two
Yeah.
the toughies
The
at the
muscle
beginning.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh
I was like, this is their book. I'm going to read about them for
huh.
400 pages and that's going to be what it's going to be. And I was so wrong, but I was actually kind of, I mean, like I cared so much about those two dudes.
Yeah.
And I was like, the fate of them in that book, like no spoilers, but like, my God, like I was like, I don't think I have been like that kind of bereft when fate, like played its hand and like did what it did
Yeah.
with those two guys. Like I was
Yep.
like to the extent that like when like I like even after the fact, I was like, they're gonna come back. Like something there's gonna be some like wrap around, reach around, like where it's gonna be like, oh, it was all a dream. Like I just could not believe that they were gone.
Yeah.
And I was really sad. I miss those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I I looked up what I put when I posted the episode, like what I put on because I was like, well, how am I going to get people to understand what the fuck this is?
Uh-huh.
And I wrote zombies, an enchanted severed hand, a clandestine agency, a legendary rock group. What more do you need?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even like tell a story. I was like, here's some stuff that happens. Like that's the
Yeah.
best I could do. Yeah.
I mean, and even the zombies stuff. Like I was like, how can he put zombies in here? I was like, Jesus Christ, where the hell are
Yeah.
these zombies coming? Like it was like, is this a zombie book now? And I was like,
Right.
what? And it like I read the book, I swear, I read both books, and yet like I'm still kind of in denial that they are zombie books. Like there's a part of me that just
Right.
doesn't want to believe that those are zombie books. There's no way that those can be
Right. And
fucking zombie
I
books.
wouldn't even categorize them that way, even though like you have every right to, right? I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, they're in there, but like
Well, I
there's a
haven't
part
read
of
the
me.
second one yet, but
Oh my God. Yeah, no spoilers. No spoilers.
but you're saying good stuff.
Great stuff. Amazing. I
Oh
mean, come
man,
on. Like like it couldn't happen to a cooler guy. Like whatever success, whatever fate has in hand for him, I just hope it's awesome because he deserves it.
Well, when Stephen King, not so like when Stephen King tweets about your book, so it happened to Paul. It's
Yeah.
happened to a handful of people. I think I think he mentioned Gabino Iglesias. There's been some people over the years.
Yeah.
When he tweets about your book, that is a career changing moment for you.
Yeah.
And what I noticed that I hadn't seen with other interactions is that King followed up. Like he did the original tweet about Fever House, but then he like tweeted maybe the next day or another day
Yeah.
later more information, and I'm like, this guy fucking loves this book.
Yeah. He's
So
still thinking
that
about it. It's
right,
still in his craw.
it made a real impression on him. So that's a big deal.
It's huge. It's huge. Uh, I am never been so envious, but so happy at the same time.
Yeah.
Who doesn't
Yeah.
want that King tweet?
Nod. Yeah. Everybody wants the nod, I think.
Does the nod? I mean, you say it's still a career maker. Does it hold that power?
It's a career changer, I think. I don't think it's a career maker, but
yeah.
I think that when Stephen King is impressed by something of yours, it does change things for you.
Yeah.
I think it does.
I've noticed that with there's this author, Ali Melanenko, and she's been writing this book called Bad Dolls, I think it is. Oh my God, am I getting that right?
That's an awesome title.
Yeah. And do you know the Sean Hamill? He did this amazing book called The Cosmology of Monsters, and Stephen King tweeted about that.
That sounds familiar.
And then, like, of course, like Philip Fracassi with Boys in the Valley.
Boys in the Valley, yep. Yeah, that was another one, yep. Which that's a great book too. I don't know if you've read that, but that's a really good book.
I have read that book, and that was like hands down one of my faves of last year. Did you read it? I mean, it was on what, Earthling Books, the Earthling Publications?
No, I got it through Nightfire. Okay. And then I talked to Philip on the podcast about it. Yeah. So I hadn't read the original. Earthling.
That's what blows my mind, that book was out there in the world, and no, like, we didn't, like, I mean, a chosen few knew, and then what is it? I feel like we all kind of watch in real time these things happen on social media. Yeah. I'm sorry that I'm talking so much about social media. That's awful. But like, I think like fine. Sadie Hartman, Mother Horror, maybe kind of like that's what it was. She said, like, I found this book, read this book, I love this book. And then Stephen King.
He said, I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poof. There you go.
That's it. That's all Magic. You need now. Yeah. Yeah. It's and that comes back around to kind of like the idea that we started this part of the conversation with, is like, I think the most powerful thing that we can do is say, this is something that really touched me in one way or another.
Yeah.
And share it with people.
Absolutely.
I think that's the most powerful thing we can do. And if everybody's doing that, all it's doing is amplifying. It's that, rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, not to put like too fine of a point on it, but like, I just feel like there's just like way too much negativity out there. Like I just get so bummed when somebody's like taking down something that they don't like. And it's just like such wasted oxygen in my mind. Like, I feel like if there's something that I don't like, I just don't talk about it, Like I just don't give it the space, like, I mean, unless there's like a conversation, like a debate that's happening. I just feel like it's so unnecessary to like, put that kind of energy out there. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like I spend way too much time on my own Goodreads page and reading way too many negative reviews about my own stuff. And like, I'm not going to begrudge people having their opinion on my stuff. Like, it is what it is. But it's like, at a certain point, it's just kind of like, oh man, like, this sucks. It's like, wow, like, I guess I'm a bad author. And like, like, it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh man, like, it's like if you start believing it, like, it's like, oh my God, like, I'm reading all these 1-star reviews, and like, what does that mean? And what does that say about me? And then all of a sudden it's just like, you're kind of like caught in this friggin' loophole of negativity. And it's just like, and like there's just no way of breaking out of that. And I still go to Goodreads. It hasn't stopped me from reading my own reviews. But I do know in turn what I choose to do in response is not put that out there. And only like, just, it's just like, let's just talk about the stuff that makes us happy. I must sound like the most like touchy-feely guest you have ever had on this show.
No, you me and Nat Cassidy really got into some stuff too. So,
oh yeah.
Was
he all like good vibes, man? Good vibes, bro.
Well, good vibes, but like, really getting to the nitty gritty of stuff. Nat's a great guy. I like him a lot.
He's okay.
He's all right. Yeah, he's your East Coast buddy. I know.
Yeah, he's. I'll watch out for that Cassidy.
Well, he's on your Shortwave. He's a Shortwave buddy of yours.
I know, right? I got
those two. No, go on. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say I feel like I can give lip service to. I can give Nat shit. Are we allowed to curse on this, by the way? Is that okay?
Oh,
Are we
100%. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I can give Nat shit because I knew him. Like, we grew up in New York's kind of off Broadway theater scene. So like
Oh, okay.
we were doing
Oh, so you've
black
known
box
Nat a
theater.
long time?
Like 25, 20
Holy,
years, whenever, I don't know when he
that's
moved to New
fantastic.
York, but like, yeah. So like, it's so funny to like, and this is so wrong of me, and I feel this is inappropriate, but like when he started publishing horror stuff, I was like, oh, so Nat, you're coming over here now. So like, like oddly territorial, not territorial, but like, oh, so now you're like I was like, it was like some kind of like high school kind of cafeteria. Oh, you're gonna sit at my table now? What the
Yeah.
fuck, man? And then his shit is so good that it's like, God damn it, Nat.
Right.
Why were you wasting all that time as an actor when you could have been doing this shit? This is amazing.
Yeah, I've only read Nestlings, but Jesus Christ, that book
Yeah.
is so good.
But you got his two chat books?
Yeah, I've got the
Yeah.
chat books. They're up on the shelf over here. You can see all my little Shortwave books or boxes
Oh my God.
in the pile over here.
God bless Alan, man.
Alan, Shortwave is so. Here's how I was looking at what's coming out in 2023 that I can do on the podcast, and like reading takes time, and so I was like, oh, is there any kind of like shorter stuff? I saw the cover for Narcissus by Adam Godfrey.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to bring it. You know what it is. And I was like, ooh, this looks really cool. The premise sounds nice and the cover is amazing. So I reached out and I was like, oh, hey, what do you think? And I did a podcast about that. But then Shortwave was on my radar. So every now and then I was like checking in. And I saw for this year that Mewing was coming out by Chloe Spencer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had a chance to read Mewing, but
I haven't yet.
Sapphic body horror is your thing. Like, it is a really good story.
Yeah.
And so I had Chloe on for an episode. And then I was like, oh, Shortwave is really bringing it.
Yeah.
And now they're just totally on my radar. I talked to Joshua Milliken. He's part of that Killer VHS series with Teleportasm. And the thing we're talking about today is through them. And I read your chat. I have your 3 chat books through them. I read all of those.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sidebar, Teleportasm is the best title known to man. Like, that is
right.
Like, hands down. That wins. Teleportasm. There's no way anyone is going to beat that title. Like, that is the title.
And it's so honest, and it really encapsulates like the idea. It's good. Yeah, it's good.
You recommend?
Yeah, you should check it out. Like, it's wild, and like it goes in extremes of like goofiness and like X-Files and like the most bleak and desolate shit you'll ever read.
Yeah,
it's all over the place, but it's really good. Yeah,
amazing. I met Chloe for the first time at StokerCon this last couple weeks, and I saw her read from the book. And
Mewing,
it was awesome. I mean, like, it was, this kind of like odd, like she was, I mean, I haven't read the book, so I'm like kind of like trying to like describe this chapter that was like about eating a burger, but like a vegetarian. Like,
it was the eat the burger thing.
Burger thing. Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just like, what is going on here? This is insane. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, for anybody that's listening who's not familiar, so Mewing is basically a social media, some aspiring social media star gets kind of a break when she is allowed to join like an influencer house, and there might be some like supernatural deals with the devil going on and some really weird body horror shit. But it's really good. It's really good.
Alan is really bringing it. Shortwave is bringing it. And I feel like any opportunity to kind of like talk about Shortwave and just the kind of slate and just like everything that they have coming out. Like, I don't know if you read Candy Cane.
Candy Cane Kills.
Yeah.
I
Like
have
that.
not.
Oh my God. Like, just, like just, just pure confectionery Christmas slasher. It's just so good.
Well, you must then also have that high school feeling because Nat's got a thing coming out later this year on
Rest Stop. Yeah.
Shortwave, so he's following you in Shortwave as well.
What the
Yeah.
fuck, Nat? Choose your own
Should I call him up?
bro.
Should I dial him in right now? We can just like
Be like, I'm eating my dinner, guys. Leave me alone.
He's like, dude, some fucking peace, please.
No, I mean, I love Nat. I should shut up about giving Nat shit, but like, I mean, what the fact of the matter is that like Shortwave is just like Alan says yes. I've never met more of a yes person than Alan, and it's basically, I mean, Alan, how I kind of want to do this. Is that all right? And he'd be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Like he never.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever personally heard him say no to an idea. I mean, I'm sure he has, and I'm sure he's had to reject a bunch of things. But like, I do feel like in a very, very short period of time with a very kind of limited funds, like he's just doing this on his own. Like it is him, and it's just kind of mind-boggling because like I came in to the Shortwave family with Obsolescence, which was this anthology. I don't think it was technically the first. I think like he had published maybe one or two things prior to that, and one of them was a novel that he had written,
Right.
Face the Night, I believe it's called. And but Obsolescence was kind of like his first kind of like splash, like getting kind of authors together and kind of putting it out there. And if you haven't seen this collection, oh my God, it is beautiful. It is the most kind of well designed, like it's stunning. He did like 3 different covers, and they're all so beautiful. It's like he makes these collector's items, and I I'm getting his history all wrong here and muddying it up, but like I do believe that he started off in some kind of music sphere, like kind of like almost like a record label sphere, and taking that kind of notion of physical ephemera, like a record, like a
Right.
7-inch, or like a rare import CD. Like there's something to be said about having the tangible, palpable thing in your hands, but it's like packaged beautifully, and like I just think Shortwave is just creating really gorgeous stuff. It just blows my mind.
He really is. And so there's like so many things I could bounce off of. Like one of the things it kind of reminds me of is like have you ever heard of Wax Trax Records?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a Chicago thing, but like they basically, and here's the Wax Trax angle. They leaned so hard into what they knew was good.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be what other people said was good. They knew it was good, and they leaned so hard into it that everybody figured out, oh, these people fucking know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I feel like maybe there's a little bit of that going on. A little bit, I forgot the other thing I was going to say. That's okay. But yeah, there's kind of like a indie punk thing going on with what Alan's doing, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
But who's doing chapbooks? Who's doing little like print it out and fold it and staple it? Like zero people. This Is Horror did that once upon a time, but then obviously they were like, oh, we need to do other things. We don't have time for all of it. But
yeah. Those chapbooks are great. They're so much fun. And now that Nat's doing them, I hope I know that Alan is just printing those out himself and stapling them himself. Like that's just all him. Like I have to imagine, or I hope there's a 3rd author, 4th author, 5th author coming down the pike to like just keep those chapbooks going, because they're just so, I mean, they're just so cool. Like they're just like, I mean,
Yeah.
awesome kind of little bite-sized one-off stories, you know?
Well, yeah, and like in preparation for this, so I read Stay on the Line, which it's been 53 minutes that we're recording and we haven't even mentioned it yet, but we'll get there. But like, in gearing up, I was like, I don't have time to read a full novel before we start talking, but I got these 3 chapbooks and I got some time, so I
Yeah.
read the 3 chapbooks too, and I'm like, why isn't this happening more? Like the yeah,
Because
it's
there's no
definitely a
money in it,
cool.
right? Like there's no
Well,
like how does how does Alan stay alive? Like how does he keep Shortwave afloat if he's like printing and stapling
I
these
know,
chapbooks himself?
I
I
know.
mean, that's probably how he keeps alive. He
That's
doesn't hire anyone else
yeah.
to do it. Like he just like he's got to be a
Well, and he's
one-man
got
band.
integrity too because I've seen him say so many people offer to help out.
Yeah.
I believe it was him. I believe it was him, and saying like, or maybe it was Bad Hand Books, one of the two. But I believe it was Alan, and but the sentiment being like, if I'm going to take your work, I'm going to pay you for it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think there's a lot of integrity in the way that he's approaching things too.
Totally.
Um,
I do. It's so, you mentioned the record label, like the wax tracks of it all. And like, I think of like all the only way that I can understand publishing at all, the industry is like to think of them as record labels and
yeah.
think of them as like, well, is this a sub pop? Is this a merge? Is this touch and go? Like,
Interesting.
like,
Yeah.
what are the big fives? Is it like Sony? Is it, DGC? Is it like, what are
Right.
the, you
BMG
know,
or whatever. Like, yeah.
yeah, like just thinking of like who are the big uh, record labels versus like who are the ones and like what band am I? Like where am I on that spectrum? Like am I here? Am I there? Am I where am I? And like it's just it's just
That's
so
interesting.
funny
Yeah.
because uh funny I keep throwing that around, but like that idea of like who's your favorite band, like one of your favorite bands, and like indie band, rock band, punk band, and like you think of them, like you've been a fan of them from like when they were playing basement shows or like,
Yep.
small, like 10 people max at the bar. And then you watch them kind of ride, like they have like that kind of career trajectory where they like get to the big label, they sign to the major, and they're on the major for maybe an album or two, and then they're like scrapped, and then they
Yeah.
like dropped, and then they either come back to the indies or the kind of the smaller labels, or they start like putting it out themselves, like start their own record label, and
Yeah.
like that to me, like just saying all of that sounds like publishing to me. Like
Yeah.
that just like I feel like I've just talked about certain authors who kind of go up and down and all around.
Well, what comes to mind because I listened to him recently on This Is Horror, um, Adam Neville,
Hmm.
right? Isn't he the
Hmm.
one who he just publishes his own stuff now because he like did that process, went big enough to be legit, but then now he just owns his own record or his own publishing company,
Yeah.
right? I think
Yeah.
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot of work, but it sounds like a lot of like, if you're willing to take that work, there's some benefits to it. So yeah, but
Yeah.
that's the thing that comes to mind when you say that kind of arc
Yeah.
is Adam Neville.
He and I mean, I think of him as being kind of someone who's kind of gone through that entire trajectory,
Mm-hmm.
and reached and kind of achieved a new kind of peak. Uh, not necessarily talking sales numbers or tallies, but like he is in control of everything.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
is like, rights holder, IP holder, whatever kind of
Yep.
crass kind of like publishing terms you want to kind of use. Like I do like he is in charge of himself. I have no idea. I'd be curious, like, what his editorial process is. Like, I'm like, does he have
Right.
someone on the other side that, like, kind
Yeah,
of,
I think he hires editors. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like, that is, I don't know. Like, I'm just blown away by that.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Ween?
I barely ever knew much about Ween. I know that one "Pushing the Daisy" song or whatever, but not much beyond that.
What is, there's got to be what is a great band correlative of like someone who's like gone like minor, 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 major, kicked out of majors, dropped from your label, and like like starts their own record label. There's got to be like, what's the best band what's the most appropriate?
Yeah, that's a good
Uh,
question. Yeah.
um, I mean, there's got to be a million.
This is me revealing how little I know about the music industry, I guess, by not having an example
Yeah.
ready at
Maybe
hand.
Ween. Adam Neville is the Ween. Ween is to Adam Neville as publishing is to me. You know what? Yeah.
I love
Though
it.
Adam Neville would probably be so miffed that I compared
like,
him to
I'm not
Ween.
Ween.
I mean, Ween's. I
There's
get
nothing
down
wrong
with
with
some
Ween,
Ween.
yeah.
I love Ween. I like me some Ween.
So, listeners, we just had a conversation offline about things I can't talk about because of secrecy and everything like that. But one of the things that I want to talk to Clay about is that your upcoming book, "Wake Up and Open Your Eyes," has a book reveal. I'm sorry, a cover reveal happening very soon after the after we're recording. So by the time this is out, probably it will have happened. But so let's just talk about. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and say, here's what you have coming up.
Yeah.
Stay on the line.
Yeah.
Which is the thing that we are essentially going to be talking about. Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. Kill Your Darlings, which is a novella or novelette from Bad Hand Books.
Yeah, from Bad Hand.
And then Seance in the Asylum, which is a comic book, I believe, right? So
yeah, Dark Horse.
Two comments on that. First of all, fuck man, do you sleep? And second of all, what do you want to talk about all that? Like, you got the cover reveal coming up, you got all these things coming out. Like, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die one day. And like, there's going to be this feeling of like, oh shit, I just didn't do anything with myself. Like life is, I don't know. Like you get to a certain age where you just realize like, what am I doing? And like, I just want to like, I am so desperate to tell stories that matter to me, things that I love. And, you know, desperately hoping that like they land with readers. But my only, you know, I don't know, like it's weird because like, for the first time ever, people like there are certain kind of publishers who are like kind of interested in giving me like a platform, like giving me an opportunity to kind of tell stories. So like, you know, like Quirk has been amazing. Wake Up and Open Your Eyes is my 5th book with them. And they like Quirk is genuine. Like they are the people who have like made all of this possible. Like they are bedrock. Like, I mean, it's just so funny because like, I don't know, it's so cheesy, but like I've been struggling and navigating through this industry for like over 20 years now. And, publishing kind of haphazardly through that, but it wasn't until Quirk that like there was any kind of sense of consistency or any sense of kind of like stability, like this, like they believed in me, like they have given me this opportunity to just kind of tell these stories, and like, my God, that's all you need, that's all I've ever wanted, you know?
Right.
And and I think this is my problem that I have to kind of face. And like, this is like what you're getting at is like, there's this kind of, I'm going to have this like explosion, and it's going to be 24 and 25. And there's going to be a lot of stuff. And I swear I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but like in the fall of 2025, I'm going to have also a YA horror novel with Delacorte. And we just
Beautiful,
announced a new collection of short stories with Titan Books. And like those are my 2 years right there. Like that's 2024 and 2025. And I just feel like I've had the opportunity, it's either I mean, it's basically like I want to get all this stuff out there. I need to tell these stories. I want to do it within a kind of organic clip that doesn't necessarily overtax or overburden people's interest or enthusiasm.
Right.
And that's the thing that I'm trying to navigate right now. Like I'm not doing such a great job at that, I think. So, but like it is like, but Cork has been great. And then like we've been talking about Shortwave, and Shortwave is like, hey, do you want to like stay on the line? It's like this little runty thing. It's like this little, like, where can that live in this marketplace, in this sphere? And it's quite literally just Alan being like, I'm going to put that out there. Like, I want to put that out there. And, that's so hard. Like, it's so hard to find people who want to put stuff out there. Take a risk, Bad Hand, Doug with Kill Your Darling. Like that is, nobody wants Kill Your Darling. Like nobody wants that thing. That is just like a weird, that is like, just like, it's almost grief horror. It's almost a mystery. It's almost a thriller, but it's like that thing. I've had that thing for years, and it's just slipped through the cracks because it's just not one thing. And I've been talking to Doug for a while about doing something over there at Bad Hand, and he was like, you should just send me something. And like, I sent him Kill Your Darling just completely on a lark to be like, here's a writing sample. like I don't know why I've given him a writing sample, but it was like, here, like this is the kind of thing, like my mode of thinking. Like I want to do something like this. And then he was like, I want it and I'll take it. And I was like, really? Like, are you sure? Like all of a sudden I was like, are you sure you want to do that? And he was just like, let's do it. Like, why wait? And, I like that, like, that's just magical. Like, that's just,
right.
And maybe that's kind of one of the key differences between kind of a smaller house and a bigger house is that like you don't have to plan these things a year out. You don't have to like, the production is kind of, the scale is a little bit different. Right. I mean, I've been working on Wake Up and Open Your Eyes since like 2022 maybe. And like just, when I had the idea, when I pitched that story versus when it'll hit the shelves, like a whole, like the worlds, the lives that have, kind of like come and gone, know, it's so weird. I'm learning, and clearly I have no answer because I'm mealy mouthing my way through this, but like I'm trying to understand what I can get away with, what I can do, what stories I can tell, and who will enable my folly, and support it, and who wants to read that shit?
Yeah.
Who the fuck wants to read this shit? I have to find those people. That's the thing. Like, now it's kind of like, okay, we gave you this opportunity. Here's the golden ticket. Now freaking find us folks who are going to fucking read this shit.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, no, I think that the very beginning of your answer was the best answer you possibly could have given, which was, I'm going to die someday. Yeah. And so that gets to like a fundamental truth that when I was talking to Paul Tremblay recently, he said something that I don't even think I teed him up for. Mm-hmm. But it was part of his response to some question I asked, so I guess I can take credit for it. He said, I read to be who I am. Huh. And I was like, fuck, man, I don't even want to talk to you anymore. What am I going to say? How am I going to follow up? I read to be who I am.
Oh, God.
And I feel like your I'm going to die someday answer kind of touches on that level of, like a philosophical level of like, what are we doing here? So no, I think that you kind of hit it out of the park with that one.
And then I talked for 30 more minutes about.
That's what this is for. That's what we're here for. That is
Yes.
absolutely what we're here for. But I like your idea of like who wants to read this, because your audience from Quirk might not be looking for what's coming out on Shortwave or Bad Hand or something, and so how like it still requires kind of work and effort. Like
Yeah.
you might have to be like, oh, by the way, this isn't in the Barnes and Noble, so go
Yeah.
look for it here.
I love the hand sells, man. Like I love
Yeah.
getting out there, doing events, meeting people. Like, you're talking about the cool Chicago events. There's so many different events happening in Chicago right now, like in the Midwest. Have you heard of the Scarelastic Book Fair?
I'm so mad. I was talking to Josh about this because I was up hanging out with Josh, and that's one of the things that came up where I was like, nothing
Yeah.
happens in the Midwest, and I was like, did you hear about this Scarelastic thing? And he's like, oh, is that? I think I heard about that, and I was like, I could have fucking been there if I knew about it before it happened. I found out about it as people were there, and I was so because like it's in Indianapolis, so it's like a 2-hour drive from
Yeah.
me. So
McCordsville, Indiana.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I've done it twice, and I swear to God, I'm stuck here in Brooklyn, in the East Coast. But I drove there. I
right,
packed my
right.
kids into the van
Oh wow,
and like carted their asses halfway across the country just so I could sell books. And
in a brewery, I
in a
believe.
brewery.
Yeah.
Hey, kids, let's Dad's gonna go hang out in the brewery. Here's the iPad. Watch some screen. um,
Screen time.
but it was amazing. Josh
Yeah.
Hull. Do you know Josh Hull?
I know of Josh Hull. I've not met him, but he's
Oh,
going to be at a thing in August called Books and Brews.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. This is why your theory of the East Coast being all cool and
It's falling apart.
it's falling apart because Scarelastic,
Yeah.
Books and Brews, which is like there's this group called Books of Horror. Do you know Books of
Right.
Horror?
It's a Facebook group. I'm not a part of it. I've only recently heard of it. Yeah.
I think they're all in the Midwest. They're
It's big though.
sponsoring
Yeah.
Books and Brews, like that's their baby. There's Books and Brews. There's also something coming up in October called
Yeah.
Tomes of Terror, which is going to be
Oh,
in Illinois, in Bloomington, Illinois.
wait a minute. I don't know if I know about that. I thought you were going to say AuthorCon because that's in St. Louis.
Yes, I will be there for that. I will.
That's where we're going to do our bro hug then, because I'll be there too.
Done. And then there will be a coup. It'll be basically like the Berlin Wall coming down, and
Right.
New York, like East Coast and Midwest, will finally
We'll
be
be
unified.
yeah.
And Josh
Again.
Mallerman will be kicked to the curb.
Oh, I would never. I've slept in his house, man. He put me up for the night. I will never turn my back on that man.
Mr. Gorbachev, Mr. Mallerman, tear down this wall.
Tear down this wall. I really hope he listens to this. When I was hanging out with him, you came up several times. So
Oh yeah.
it's not often that I get to just hang out with an author
Yeah.
and see an author's perspective of the industry, because I just see it from like a reader podcaster.
Yeah.
But you came up several times about, oh, Clay this, Clay that. So he definitely holds you in regard, and you are on his mind. So
Man. Okay, I take it.
watch what you say, I guess. Is what I'm saying.
I would like, but this is the problem. Like I can't. Like I'm a fan. Like this is the thing. Like you say Josh Mallerman, you say Paul Tremblay, you say Stephen Graham Jones. How can you not think of those people? How can you not put them on this pedestal
I
and be
agree.
like, you wrote A Head Full of Ghosts. You wrote The Only Good Indians. You wrote Daphne. Like I feel like there's whether it's a cognitive dissonance or I don't know, but those are the people who I read for joy. That.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I am a fan first, and
So it's hard to see them as contemporaries, is what you're saying? Like,
I
or like
you
put yourself on their shelf.
I mean, you said that. I didn't. I
Well,
can't even fathom.
I'm reading between those lines, man. But like, here's the thing. I feel like you are of that ilk. Like you are in that group of people.
This is something that you said earlier, and I'm totally fine with this being on record. But like, you mentioned like being kind of made aware, like starting like your kind of trajectory in 2011, and kind of like watching, whoever is out there now, whatever this, this horror crop is, like, I mean, I guess we're all kind of aware of it through social media, but like who is shaping it right now? I don't know. Like, I'm just curious. Like, I'm curious. Like what are who are the authors that like feel like the grand poobahs, the like senior class, the like the incomings, the soft, like who are the transfer students, the homeschool student? What is the range?
That's a good. I fucking love this question too, because like, there's so many people who are just murdering it right now, like just completely murdering it right now. The first name that comes to mind, and I mentioned her earlier today on Twitter to someone, is Katrina Ward.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like nobody can touch what she's doing. Nobody can touch what she's doing. And so the first book I read was The Last House on Needless Street. And I was like, I am just fucking wrecked by this book. So when Sundial came out, I was like, maybe it'll be different. And it was just fucking worse. And I was like, so fucking, more, not worse, better. And I was just wrecked by that book. And so then I was like, I can't think of someone that I respect more right now than what she's doing. Like, if you want to talk about someone who's at the top of their game, I don't think anybody's bringing it like she is.
No, absolutely. She was born fully formed, fully fledged. Like, she is she is the shit.
Yeah.
There's no denying it.
I'm about to start reading, I think this is it, Dear Hannah, the sequel to Baby Teeth by Zoya Stage. Zoya Stage, since Baby Teeth came out, has been one of my favorite people. I think that the way she writes is just so fucking compelling and personal in a way. I think that she's doing such good stuff. Anybody who's listening, if you've read her stuff and liked it, she had a fairy tale come out called The Girl Who Outgrew the World, which will absolutely emotionally destroy you, but is so, so, so good. I think Zoya Stage is doing awesome stuff right now.
Baby Teeth.
I know, right?
Freaked me out. That is like
I think Josh and Paul and Steven are all like fully pedal to the floor right now. Like all of the stuff that they came. By the way, Steven, he had The Angel of Indian Lake come out in January. He's got another one coming out in July, and something else I can't talk about because I fucked something up. Maybe coming out later in the year. Like that guy is not slowing down too. Oh man, I could just keep talking. Like, see, you just opened a door.
Keep going. Like, who's the like? Okay, like you're naming all seniors. Like, these are the cool kids.
These are the seniors.
I mean, Cat Ward is. It's funny because like I almost think of her as like a junior, like a rising senior, but she's like when like certain students kind of like skip a grade, like oh, you're so smart, you're actually like genius level, so like you can skip 8th grade. Like, I think she skipped all the grades and just like went straight to seniorness.
What about Casca as like because if you want to talk about like the stuff that they are writing is so fucking good. It's like way better than the I feel like the attention that they're getting right now, if you ask me.
But I mean, I was going to say they're getting a lot.
Well, there's no shortage of attention, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are. It's funny because I think Cass is like in their own world, like they've created a sphere of like a body of work that almost kind of exists outside the realm. I'm gonna say, like, the metaphor is totally falling apart, but like I feel like Cass is in like their own school.
Sure.
Not homeschooled, but like maybe homeschooled. Like maybe like and I'm not judging homeschooledness, but like I am like it's funny how like
it's a different set of rules kind of in a way.
Yeah. They are operating on a level that feels kind of independent or outside of the status quo of the admin. They're not like dealing with the administration. There's no principal there. Like it's basically like Cass is teaching themselves how to like, I'm going to build a world today. Mermaids.
Man, I could go in so many different directions right now. But like, so like that, I just read something by T. Kingfisher, and that was awesome. But I feel like T. Kingfisher is pretty established.
Yeah. Are there like cool freshmen?
Sina Palaio, but she's kind of up in there already anyway.
Yeah. What about like the freshman class? Like, who are the noobs, the newbies?
Well, you can give examples too. This doesn't have to be like a one-way street, but I mean, we were talking about Chloe Spencer earlier, and like Chloe's pretty prolific. So, in addition to Mewing coming out this year, there was another one called An Affinity for Formaldehyde, which is about someone who has to go, like a girl who has to go back to her hometown because she's trying to stop her best friend from marrying her grandmother.
Wait, marrying her own grandmother?
No, marrying the best friend's marrying the girl's grandmother.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm gonna just name off things that I've read recently that blew my mind. Do you know CJ Lead?
Oh, Mayfly was Mayfly was a testament to some skill for sure.
Yeah. I just finished American Rapture, her next book, and it is so good.
Yeah, my buddy Jesse said it's fucking great. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about Keith Rawson. I feel like he's a total junior.
Keith is somewhere, yeah. I think he's above the freshman class.
Yeah. Eric LaRocca, yeah. I think he's junior.
Man, yeah.
Liz Karen.
Liz is great.
Yeah. There's a book on Tenebris Press. I'm wearing my Tenebris Press.
I saw the shirt. It's nice.
There's a book called From the Belly, by Emmett Nahill. God, I don't know if I've ever said his name out loud. Nahill.
Mm-hmm.
Nahill. I hope I'm not murdering that. From the Belly is really good.
I will give credit to. So I don't know if you can see this very well. This is Letters to the Purple Satin Pillar by Joshua Chaplinsky
on Clash, right?
So
Clash.
On Clash, he's on Clash, and if you have not read it, like it is so good. It is so good.
It is.
Yeah,
that's a dark friggin' book.
It is dark.
That's a book that's like almost a Bad Touch book. Like it's like a book you read it and you're just like, oh, bad touch.
But it kind of fits Josh. I don't know if if you've known Josh over the years. I'm going to be talking to him next weekend, I think, about this book. But like, he's got that kind of prickliness to him. Like he's got like not prickliness. He's a great guy, and I love him. I think he's great. But he's got, my impression of Josh has always been that he's not worried about upsetting people, not worried about your feelings very much. So that kind of like, it seems like the book is in line with the way he kind of is as a person.
Totally. Um, yeah, I read that book and I was just like, oh, like I just feel like I need a bath now, like
Oh,
a shower.
Emma E. Murray, I think her name. So there's a book called Crushing Snails that's coming out later this year on Apocalypse Party.
Uh huh.
But she had something that came out, I think it was even Shortwave, if I'm correct about that, called When the Devil. And it's this little, like,
Yeah.
40-page, like, kind of sapphic horror thing about, like, a woman in the country she's that kept woman who is abused, and, like, her life is just like she's a property for someone kind of thing. And then, like, this woman shows up and you kind of think like maybe she's the devil, but like says, "Hey, you don't have to be like this," and then things get really murdery. So that was really great. And so Crushing Snails is the one that's coming out later, and it sounds really good too. So if you want to talk about someone I think might be an up and comer, that's a name that comes to mind.
Yeah. Um, do you feel like the industry, God, the like horror kind of in it itself is like, is it flush right now? I mean, you talk about like all the kind of seniors who are just like killing it, like they're like firing on all cylinders, like, but like the genre at large, like horror fiction, like like is it expanding in a good way? Is it like I don't know, like I'm always kind of wondering if it's like, everyone talks about like, oh, we're in a bubble, like does it feel like we're
Yeah,
expanding, contracting? Is the air hissing out? Does it feel robust? Like like where are we right now?
that's a good question. I can't remember who I was listening. Someone was talking about the idea of horror being in a bubble right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and how reductive that kind of sounds. And I was like, yeah, but still, things do kind of move in patterns. I believe right now. So if you take a snapshot, if you look at where we were in 2018 versus now, so like a 6-year arc,
Mm-hmm.
the only good Indians I think was 2018 or 19 or something like that. So like horror was hitting a stride. Mallerman was doing his thing. Jones was gaining traction. Grady, Grady's Grady.
Grady is Grady.
Um, but you weren't seeing things like you're seeing now. So I think that there's an expansion that's happening right now
Yeah.
where things are more. So like Max Booth and stuff was putting out stuff, but it's
Yeah.
not. But it was Max. You know what I'm saying? Like there wasn't a dozen places that were doing stuff like putting out chapbooks and things. So I really do feel like there is an expansion right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to speculate on a contraction because also the world is more fucking horrible than it's been in a long time. And typically, horror thrives at a time when things are terrible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Good time for horror all around.
we might as well just get as much out of it as we can while we can, like while people are paying attention. I think is kind of, and I'm not even a horror specific guy.
Yeah.
But I've been around horror enough to know kind of what's going on for a while. So, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think I'm onto something, or am I off the mark a little bit?
I mean, I totally agree with you 100% about the idea that like whatever is happening out there is reflected and filtered and processed through what we're writing, reading, and I do think that there is a certain kind of healing property to, either exercising those kind of fears by writing it out of your system, but also kind of imbibing it and like,
Yeah.
experiencing it as a reader. I appreciate that you say that the kind of notion of a bubble feels reductive, because we're really just kind of creating a space, like a
Right.
space, like a foundation for, a lot of different diverse voices and perspectives and points of views to kind of tell their stories. And I just don't want that to go away. We had like 5 dudes.
Yeah.
And now we have not just dudes. And yeah.
That's a very big point. I've definitely had conversations recently where the conclusion I've come to in my head is it's not that suddenly there are marginalized voices writing these stories. They've always been there. It's just now is a time when more marginalized stories are given maybe more attention or the attention they deserve, or they're starting to get the attention they deserve. And so that's a very important thing for sure.
Yeah.
The fact that more marginalized voices have a comfortable place to show us that how fucking amazing they are. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I just finished reading this one book that is so like it just thinking about it kind of gives me the squeegees. The book is called "The Eyes Are the Best Part"
Ooh, yeah, I've
by
heard about it.
Monica Kim. Um, it it's so, oh my god, it speaks to a personal phobia that I have, which is eating cherry tomatoes. Um, and it handles it so well. It is amazing. Like, it is a book not for the squeamish, the culinarily squeamish, I guess you should it's a very uh um
Like it's a tactile kind of thing.
it's a tactile, but what is the like gustatory, like what like olfactory is the nose, what is the palate, like the taste, not culinary, but there's like the I'm looking for a word, what's the word?
So the eyes are the best part, right?
It's a little like gustatory experience. I'm probably I'm killing the word now, but I'm just going to say it a bunch of times. Gustatory, gustatory, gustator. I'm like the tactile sensation in your mouth. It is
Uh-huh.
it's a book you read, but it makes you feel things in your mouth. It's a mouthfeel book.
Huh. Interesting. I did not expect that from, yeah. That was one of, so at the beginning of the year, me and Becky Spratford and Emily Hughes did a 2024 horror preview episode
Whoa!
for the first
Wow,
6 months of the year. And
that's wild.
that was one of the books that made the list for what I think it was Emily mentioned that one that she was
Yeah.
looking forward to. Um, your name is on the list for, I'm recording July through the end of the year in a couple weeks, and you definitely will be talked about on that episode.
Yay!
So a little bit of a spoiler there.
Who are you bringing on for that panel?
Oh, it's Becky and Emily again.
Oh man!
Basically, like that wasn't even my idea. So Becky Spratford, who I love and everybody should follow because nobody knows horror better than Becky, was like, you should do like a looking forward to 2024 thing. And I was like, and she's like, yeah, and you should get Emily to join. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, there's two people that are smarter than me who want to talk about books. Of course, I'm going to do this. And so that's kind of how that came about. So we're about to record July through December. Yeah.
God, you want to talk about advocating? Becky Spratford is by far the biggest. Like, cheerleader is almost kind of diminishing what she does. Like,
Yep.
she is the soccer mom of the genre, where she will
Yeah.
like take you, like drive you. She will like cart your ass around from
Yeah.
game to game to game. Like, she is all about it, and it's
I
so
stumbled. Yeah.
selfless.
Yeah. It's so selfless. You're absolutely right. And I stumbled onto her when I went to StokerCon 2017, which was on the Queen Mary in Long Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who was organizing it just set up a bunch of interviews for me to do for my podcast, like F. Paul Wilson and Ellen Datlow and stuff like that. And one of the people I got to talk to was Becky. And so that day that I was talking to Becky, like I'd bump into people and they'd be like, I have a cute Stephen Graham Jones story I'm going to tell you about in a second. But, oh, what are you guys up to today? Oh, I'm going to interview Becky Spratford. Every time her name came up, oh, you're talking to the librarian. But like with reverence, like suddenly I was like, oh shit, am I underprepared to talk to the librarian? It was like a big deal.
Yeah.
And they were absolutely right.
2017, Becky, like I can't even
Yeah.
like she is now in like full control of her powers, her like supernatural super strength as like
Yep.
like
And she's got a book coming out next year. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is going to be fantastic. Like, are you one of the essays?
I am.
I'm so glad you are, because if I was wrong about that, I'd feel like such an asshole.
No, I'm not.
Fuck. You're like, interview over. You throw your
Done.
headphones down.
Thanks. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks. No. I totally made the cut. Whew.
So here's my cute little StokerCon 2017 Stephen Graham Jones story. So me and my friend Jesse and my friend Misty were hanging out, and like I had mentioned earlier, Jesse is a longtime friend with Stephen. So like that's kind of how I got to know Stephen and everything. And me and Misty and Jesse are sitting around in between like things we're doing. Like there's a little gap in between this thing and the next thing. So we're just sitting at this table kind of hanging out. And we all just happen to be looking at our phones. And all of a sudden I just hear Stephen's voice and he says, "Y'all texting each other?" And it was the sweetest, dirtiest fucking burn. Like we're just sitting around, like we're sitting around with each other, but we have to text each other. And like there was something that was so like endearing, but also like just like savage about it that I've never gotten past it.
That's amazing. I just want Stephen Graham Jones to be like creeping up on all of us, like just that idea of like him.
How do you not notice him
popping up? Like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. So we love Stephen. Do you want to talk about your book? Do you want to talk about Stay on the Line?
I mean, if you want to, I'm totally having a blast just chatting.
I know.
Like, I'll follow your lead.
I'm going to tell you. So recently, Bob Pastorella tweeted about me that I'm the master of conversational interviews.
Yeah.
And I was like very flattered, but at the same time I was like, oh shit, now I really need to be conversational in my interviews, because like if people suddenly start listening to me and they're like, this is formulaic, there's no conversation to this at all. So maybe so like I did the last one was very conversational, and this one I feel like I was like, Clay's going to be conversational, so it has worked out I think pretty well.
I mean, what is a podcast interview for you? Like, what is the goal? Is it to like you have your questions and like, is it like I got to get through all my questions, or is it like let's just like what's the
No, like so I learned early on that the less I talk, the better. Like people show up to listen to Clay, right? So if I'm talking the whole time, I'm being disrespectful to the people who showed up to listen, but I'm also not giving you an opportunity to be Clay.
Yeah.
So like my goal is to talk as little as possible, but at the same time, like I don't know the best thing that's going to come out of you.
Yeah.
So I'm very open to seeing where the conversation goes, because like I was talking to Brian Keene one time. He was telling me about someone was interviewing him, and they asked him a question like, where did the idea for this book come from? And he gave a very personal answer that was just ripe for follow-up questions. But the person interviewing wasn't paying attention to the answer at all and just moved on to their next question.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm done with you. You don't even care about this conversation. And so that really resonates with me too. Like, what we're here for is to have a meaningful conversation. Otherwise, why did we spend the time doing this?
Yeah.
And so I have to be as open as possible to like what is important to Clay, what excites you, what is the thing that's important to you. That definitely is over what does Rob want to get out of this. For me, it's like, how do I make this something that the people will understand?
Yeah.
And somehow care about, but like that's pretty much it.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like if you kind of come at it with like, these are my questions and this is my approach and this is, I want to get the answers for these things. Like podcasts are this is the Wild West, right? Like there's no parameter to it. There's no structure to it. Like it is this amorphous mass of conversation. And like, I want to believe someone is listening to this. Okay. So let's do this. This is the test. Oh my God, we're going to do a test. If anyone is listening right now, like the right now moment, we're at the ARC party and you're listening to this right now, whoever you are, good sir, ma'am, mademoiselle, like if you're listening to this, you have to tweet at us. You have to like, or whatever your social media mode is, and you have to say, I want cake at my ARC party. I want cake at
Oh
my
my
ARC
God.
party.
I love
And
it.
and we'll know that you were here with us, and that will be so cool. You will be one of the chosen few who made it this far into this interview. You're like, I'm waiting for the questions, I'm waiting for the answers,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the greater truths. And you're gonna realize they're probably not coming. Like there's no answer.
Or they already came.
We're all gonna die. Like it's
We're all
like
gonna die. It's like that.
death is coming for us all. But like if you made it here, we're gonna give you cake. Like I want cake at my ARC party, and I will just be so happy, so over the moon, and I will love you, whoever you are.
Please, at least one person, like my girlfriend or something.
Could be one person
needs to just come through.
If it's that one I mean, like that's the thing though. That one person, like
Yeah.
they're like, if they've made it this far, like that's kind of cool. Like that's a testament to like it's less a testament to us, and I think more about them and their like
the endurance.
Like, like there's like something like they're getting it, they're digging it. I want cake at my ARC party.
I want cake at my ARC party. I'll put it on the screen for anybody who's watching on YouTube. There was actually when I put up that ridiculous series of Josh Malerman episodes, which his book is called Incidents Around the House.
Yeah.
And since I went up and visited him, it's a 4-episode series that I called Interviews Around the House. Which I was pretty proud of that. But someone said about one of the episodes, they're like, it's like I'm listening to a couple of friends sitting around shooting the shit. And I was like, that's the best compliment I think I could possibly ask for, is people just feel like this is a genuine conversation that matters. And so, that.
Well, who gets access to Josh Malerman's house? Like that in of itself is like,
he told me.
But like that, like you're peering behind the curtain a little bit. Like that's, you're seeing the process, you're seeing how he operates. Like, I'm like, just by sheer default, like I'm in my wife's office because she has the best Wi-Fi. But like, if you were here, like what the hell would we be doing? Like we could be anywhere. If we had a weekend, like that would be just wild. Like, you're not beholden to our poor internet router. And that was the thing, like the kind of world was your oyster kind of thing, where we're sitting outside, there's tree frogs, there's animals, and we're just like talking about whatever. That was probably the most like pure moment of like making a connection with someone that I've experienced as far as like interviewing and stuff goes, for sure. But like I can't do that with everybody. I can't fly out to New York to hang out with like, I can't fly. I can't travel every time I need to talk to someone. So it's a little challenging, but goddamn,
I feel like we're doing a great job tonight though.
Yeah.
I think this is as close as you could possibly hope for.
Oh, hands down. Like,
which is interesting because like in listening to your interviews in the past, like on This Is Horror and stuff, hearing your voice and hearing the way you talk, I was like, there's a lot of Josh in this dude. Like there's this like there's a what ifness about this guy that really kind of reminds me of Josh. So knowing I was talking to you, I was more comfortable knowing that this was probably going to be kind of similar to that.
Yeah. Oh man. Though I've been fortunate to be on This Is Horror twice now, and I got so nervous with those because they do like epic, like 3-hour, and they tell you up front, like the first hour we'll focus on this, and the second hour we'll focus on this, and like I had performance anxiety with This Is Horror, and it was totally because I was just so focused on wanting to say something that mattered, which is so like I'm critiquing my podcast interviews of previous podcasts, which is so that's funny. That's a weird thing, but like
not like, a place you expected to be tonight, probably.
Well, no, I mean, like, but it's like, when you go in, like, you listen to some episodes, if you have the time, you kind of sift through and be like, oh, well, you want to check it out. And like I remember with This Is Horror, like, it was just so like, I wanted to do a good job, and I don't know if I did.
Yeah.
And, I like in, chalking up like what my podcast regrets may be, like, I just want to, I hope that I did okay, that those guys aren't feeling I let them down. I don't want to let them down.
I wouldn't expect so. And from what I remember of it, I mean, I definitely enjoyed your episodes. I've listened to most of that stuff. I've known Michael since like before This Is Horror.
Yeah.
Probably because when This Is Horror Awards were going on, I don't know if you know, this is 2012. So like, this is like, I think the first year of This Is Horror Awards. But the thing that I have to give, because we're talking about them, I have to give all the credit in the world, because I've never met someone who does a podcast who cares more about asking questions that are going to get good answers.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Michael really, really tries very hard to be sure that the questions he's asking are quality questions. And he's like respecting the people. He does so much research. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I know someone who prepares more than he does.
Oh my God. And they get it out of their guests. They really do. I have come, and I've said this a few times, so I forgive me for repeating myself, but like, I have come to podcasts as a means of searching through something for myself. Like it kind of skews towards therapy on some level.
Okay.
And it's purely because like because of the free range quality, and like the interrogation, like the questioning, and the kind of like there's a certain element of catharsis to it, like a certain kind of element of like epiphany, or we're, whether I know what it is, I don't know what I'm like reaching for, but it's like, maybe it's like some better understanding of myself. So like, every time you ask a question, it's like, I really want to answer that question,
Right.
rather than it being some kind of pat answer of like, oh, like,
Sure.
Like, it's not a junket. It's not like some sort of like press,
Right.
like line them up and then knock them down. Like, that just gets that's awful, right? You want an author, you want a guest that's going to like give you something that feels honest and real, but also like I need to find this answer for myself. So yeah.
I think that when it works best is when the answer I get is what they want to say instead of what they think I want them to say.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like, if you get yourself into a headspace of I need to answer this, I need to give them the answer they're looking for, probably not going to be a great answer. But if you go where that feeling takes you, I feel like that's when it's the right answer.
Yeah.
So and then sometimes people will be like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I answered your question. And I'm like, you did better than you could ever fucking imagine. So yeah. Grief horror. I'm doing a quick
pivot.
I'm turning it. I'm
pivoting. You did it.
So we've been talking almost 2 hours now. We got to talk about your book, man. We got to do it. We got to talk about it.
I've avoided it so long.
At least
I've been deflecting and like pivoting away from it.
We're now best friends, and so we could talk about it off the podcast, but at least a little bit for the people who chose to listen, if that's great with you.
I was promised grief horror. I tuned into this episode. I want cake and I want grief.
Like, they really leaned into the idea of stay on the line, because I've been waiting 2 hours to hear about.
Wait a minute. Is this it? Is this the moment? Here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, wait. No, not yet.
Stay tuned for part 2. What if I did that to people? That would just be.
And in the fourth segment, we finally get to.
Yeah. No, this has all been this conversation has been far beyond what I could have hoped for, and
Yeah. Oh
I almost
man.
feel bad that I'm like establishing ground rules in the second hour, um, because so far it's been great. But so circling back around, Shortwave is putting out "Stay on the Line,"
Yes.
and I am an asshole. I don't know the release date off the top of my head.
July 30th.
July 30th, and it's quick. It's like 50-ish pages, I want to say,
Yeah.
right?
Short and sweet.
And the whole idea is that it's this kind of coastal town that a hurricane hits, and as a hurricane will do, it causes damage, and some people in the town are lost in the hurricane. And uh, I'm going to pause and say this is the thing I tell all of my guests.
Mm-hmm.
I care about spoilers as much as you do.
Yeah.
So like, you can rein me in if I go too far.
Okay.
But there is, because this is about a phone booth, and I think even on the description of it on the back, like there's something about the phone booth. Something about a phone booth in the protagonist's life is helping people like make connections, and it helps with their grief or their mourning and stuff like that. I don't know where you want to go with this,
Yeah.
but it's kind of a unique. I'll let you take over. I ham-handedly started this conversation. Where would you take it from there?
God, can I go any further with it?
I
mean,
know
that
it's
feels
tricky.
good to me. I was working on this book called What Kind of Mother? And it all takes place in this kind of slightly fictional, slightly real coastal Chesapeake Bay town called Brandywine.
I was wondering if there was a connection to What Kind of Mother. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very loose, like no character connections, but
Yeah.
it's same town, same hurricane. There's a hurricane that kind of blows through What Kind of Mother at a pivotal point in a secondary storyline. And but I just was really kind of like taken with this idea of like, any town that gets hit by a hurricane, which geez Louise, like it's just happening more and more
Yeah.
now. Like it's like pick your cataclysmic, barometric, geologic, like like the weather is just, it is just happening so much more
It's kind of like
now,
horror.
and it's like that terrifies me. But like thinking of a town that is dealing with the aftermath of this hurricane, this coastal, just like battering, and of all the things to kind of survive after, the deaths and the kind of the vanishings of so many loved ones, the one thing that kind of remains in this small town is this upright, like singular solitary telephone booth, obsolete, disconnected. It's just like been there in a parking lot for
Right, a relic.
yeah. And it's just rusting in the middle of nowhere, and like for some miraculous unforeseen reason, like it just like it sticks. And because this town is suddenly kind of like dealing with the aftermath of this hurricane, um you know the protagonist of the book, the story, kind of notices, like, she's a bartender who works at this kind of like portside, dockside bar, where that has the parking lot where this phone booth is. She starts noticing that people are actually going to the phone booth and picking up the telephone and talking for how, like, extended stretches of time. And this bartender, she lost someone really dear, and you're kind of like watching her go through the motions of like, am I gonna pick up the phone, am I gonna go to the phone booth, and like like it just dealing with loss, dealing with love, but dealing with it in this way that like a community that needs to heal kind of collectively, and like maybe there's something out there that is exploiting their grief in a way that is not necessarily positive, and things get a little creepy and a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my pitch. How was that? Was that better? Was that
No, yeah,
good?
this
Like I'm riffing off of what you gave, and I feel like you gave more than I could throw there. So
I think
yeah,
together we did the right thing.
little
In a way,
jazz.
so the first thought I have, there's a couple of thoughts I have about the story and about um I'm going to keep it to your chapbooks with Shortwave and with
Mm-hmm.
this, but like family seems to be like something that we talk about a lot in our stories if we're playing McLeod Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess for this story specifically, is there any kind of allegory element of it for you, or is this more of a kind of a what if kind of situation, or is that something that would be too spoilery?
I mean, if I'm understanding, it's more what if. I think. God, I hope. Like,
Right, right.
you know, I'm a parent, and I have
Yeah.
kids, and you know, the world became a lot scarier as soon as I had children. Like, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and it's kind of I'm getting tired. I'm losing words now. Serendipitously
That wordly.
dovetailed with uh, writing these stories. So like, the Quirk books all kind of are now my parenthood books, because like I'm just like navigating child rearing at the same time as writing books about things that scare me. Like that's the thing. Like I have to have a little skin in the game. Like I have to like
Yeah.
like the lesson that I've learned is that like I'm not necessarily writing about myself, but I have to write about my fears. I have to write about the things that scare me. And honestly, the things that scare me the most these days is losing the people that I love. Like
Right.
I just can't fathom letting go of my children or my wife or my family, and yet all I do all day is imagine that. Like I'm like
Yeah.
like who the fuck does that? Like why would anyone do that to themselves? But it is this like this like sense of like, oh, I'm going to like I don't want that in my life, but I'm going to create a kind of contained environment where I can kind of exercise those fears or explore those
Sure.
fears, or kind of like give those fears free reign so that I don't have to think about them as much. Which is a
Yeah.
ass backwards way of doing it, but here we are.
I don't know. Like, so that always seems like something that Stephen Graham Jones has been doing too. A lot of the things that he puts in his stories are things that he's like scared of and wants to understand better. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, I think part of his process of writing, sometimes at least, is this fucking scares the shit out of me. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So I think that there is like a. I think the thing that's good about that, and the thing I immediately noticed with your writing, was how um, connected I felt with it,
Mm-hmm.
with the characters.
Hmm.
And so I think that's attributed to the fact that like there's, like you said, skin in the game. There's like some real stakes going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. Like, I know we're keeping this. It's almost like we're in a kind of like courtroom scene, and it's like you can only talk about the evidence found within the chat
Right.
books and stay in the line. So it's like that cross section of writing is so specific, and like
Yep.
I think of the chat books as just kind of like utter larks. They're goofs.
Yeah.
They're goofs. Like
Yep.
Mama Bird, it's a goof. Baby carrots, that's a goof, total goof. And like knockoffs, like goof. Like
Yep.
whether you find them scary or funny or just kind of silly, like it's kind of the ability to kind of explore familial, parental, child rearing fears in a way that is bite-sized and pleasant. Like I don't know, like they're just kind of like little
Yeah.
larks. They're just total larks. That's all they
Yeah.
are.
It's candy. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was kind of the point and like having fun doing it, and like maybe hopefully they're fun to read. But Stay on the Line, I feel, kind of falls outside of that, where it is still bite size. It's a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more meat on the bone. But I think that the kind of emotional drive, the kind of the kind of like the mechanism behind it, the motor that pushes the story forward, is it comes from a different place than the chapbooks.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I'm not going to say one is more serious than the other and therefore should be taken as such, but I do feel like Stay on the Line is a little bit more methodical, or more. I'm trying to find words that are not somber, because somber sounds like I'm saying boring. Like there's an intentionality behind it that feels more acoustic. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's got a drive to it. It like takes your head and it turns it to look at a specific thing, kind of, in a way.
Mm-hmm. Where
and like
yeah.
So the grief aspect comes from just the fear of losing what you've got, kind of, is kind of what you were saying.
I think so. I mean, I'm fortunate to say that I've never experienced a hurricane firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
I have lost people in my life, family members, but not in the way that the book kind of posits.
Well, I think that goes back to the what if aspect of it. Like, what would I feel if I were in this position? If like the most important person to me was suddenly whisked away in a way that nobody can control or anticipate, where would my mind go? Like, what actions would I take?
Yeah.
I think kind of a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like that idea of, I mean, you have this kind of archaic, this technology that's kind of obsolete, kind of keeping in line thematically with a lot of Alan and Shortwave's, their obsolescence anthology, where it's just like you have a technology that's just outmoded. Like nobody uses this telephone booth anymore, and yet it is, it has this kind of direct line to something else. Of course, like saying that out loud makes me think a lot of like The Black Phone, by Joe Hill.
Oh yeah,
which I loved, which is a great story.
I didn't read it, but I saw the movie. Yeah,
the movie was good. It's so amazing how you can kind of take a short story, 5 pages, maybe 10 pages, and like it cracks itself open into this larger, feature film. But I think they did a really good job with it.
Talking about stories that aren't published and not wanting to spoil them makes it really difficult, especially when they're only 50 pages long.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, and we can talk as little about this as you want to, that the concept of, because it's a phone booth, your ability to play on the words "reach out and touch someone" or "calling me,"
yeah,
the play on the idea of reaching out and touching someone, or calling me, and what calling could mean, I thought was really well kind of worked into the story, implying some stuff. And I was like, ooh, that's clever. Good job, Clay, when I read that stuff.
I mean, at a certain point, it almost writes itself. Like that's like those, like reach out and touch someone. Like, do you remember that? I'm aging myself, but like that is so malevolent. That is such a like if that was your slogan, reach out and touch someone, like that, it just sounds like you're kind of like begging for getting canceled, or like calling the police on, like that just feels bad touch to me. Like I don't know, like I just have this affinity for thinking back to those harmless whether it's a slogan or a brand, like things that just feel so innocuous because they're from our childhood, but they take on such a malevolent tint now, when you kind of
But
just like they're just a little
right.
askew.
But like thinking about it, if you told teenagers today, basically there was a time when I could just, by dialing random numbers, I could put myself in your home more or less.
Yeah.
And you would have no control over whether that happened or not. That sounds freaky. And that's like Scream. Like that's where Scream starts, is like, it used to just be a phone was a weakness. It was an entry point into your life, kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting thought about that too.
And how amazing is it that like even Scream kind of was rendered obsolete by Scream 4, Scream 5, whatever they're up to now. Like the reinvention of its own mechanism. Like you have to kind of incorporate cell phones in, and like how amazing was, how novel was the first one, where it's like, oh, she's on a cordless phone. Like that was the innovation. And now you like it's just rendered obsolete. Like a home line, who has a home line anymore? Like it's just
right.
It is, we have to kind of write about these kind of archaic forms of technology, because those are the technologies that we grew up with, or we remember, or are familiar with. But like, how does anyone, like, who are the people right now that are making cell phones scary? Like, who's making who's making Snapchat scary? That's what I want to know. Like we're, and that it doesn't sound like old man kind of get off my lawn style. Like,
right.
Well, these kids with their technology today, like, yeah, it's hard. It's so hard.
It's tricky. Yeah.
You have to come up with a scenario that, like, oh, they don't have cell phones. There's no service here because we're in the mountains. And it's like, okay, we get it.
Maybe that's what the freshman class is for. But so I'll go back to Chloe Spencer a little bit, because the influencer lifestyle was almost a trap in a way in that book. Like it was using the ambitions of being big in social media as a way to manipulate someone. Mm-hmm. So like, I feel like maybe there is kind of those things that are happening, but it's just, maybe that's for the freshman class to start worrying about.
All right, kids, it's up to you.
Yeah, we're passing that baton.
Passing the cell phone.
I have to let you go soon, man. It's been like 2.5 hours almost. But
I'm just so proud that I beat the Tremblay. That's my.
You didn't beat the Mallerman though, so like.
Well, that's no fair. He's like in a class on he asked you to spend the night. That's
true.
If I knew there was like a slumber party option, I would have opted in. But like,
right. Yeah. Well, for future, I'd interviewed Josh probably 6 times before we got to his dogs are waking me up by licking my face. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, maybe that's just a time will tell kind of situation.
We'll work up to the dogs. I have one dog.
Wrapping up the whole concept of stay on the line. It's like I said before, it's a quick, very kind of like grief driven story, but I really enjoyed it. And how would you say that talking about the novels that you've got out,
is that a whole stack of my books above your head?
This is your books.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just noticing that now.
And then that's your novels and the
oh my God
chapbooks, and then next to it is
staring at you for 2.5 hours, and I'm just now realizing, oh, those are my books. I was like,
I think in chronological order too. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's all you.
Wow.
Would Stay on the Line be in line with kind of like the feeling of your novels, or are you thinking this is kind of like a different vibe? If people start with Stay on the Line, is this typical of what they can expect with other stuff, or is it its own feel?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's in line. I mean, maybe in recent line, like, I think it's kind of a vestigial tale of what kind of mother, which I think kind of like had its own kind of like exploration of the griefy stuff, the kind of like the sad stuff, and maybe by in effect ghost eaters too. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I think I tried successfully or unsuccessfully. Like some like I wanted to write some serious books.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like mature and write something like no, this is the real stuff. and maybe ghost eaters and maybe what kind of mother and maybe stay in the line all kind of like play into that. So like, I because of the kind of size and scale of stay on the line, like, it's so funny how like you're just kind of competing for like vying for shelf space. Like it's like a little
Yeah.
slender kind of story. But I what I wanted from it and what I hope I did and what I think I did. And the reason why I say I think is because I feel like I've been noticing the people who are reading it are having this reaction. But like, I just wanted the emotion to be true. I wanted the emotion inherent, internal to the story to feel honest. And it's that idea of what it's like to lose someone when you're not ready to let go, and what you're willing to do in order to get them back, and how your grief can kind of maybe play tricks on you, maybe, and and I just wanted to be honest. When I was writing What Kind of Mother, I lost both of my grandparents. Like, I started the book when I lost my grandfather, and I finished the book when I lost my grandmother. And for a long time, I was really close to both of them. And so they're kind of baked into that experience of writing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing I write is this little thing. And it's like, I guess sometimes like you write something and you're not finished, you're not done with it yet, or it's not done with you. And I needed to kind of get it out of my system a little bit more. And that was the story that came to me to do it in. And I wanted to do it in the town and keep kind of exploring that kind of neck of the woods.
You just made me think of an experience in my life that I think is closest aligned to maybe what the people in Stay on the Line went through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told you earlier about having gone through cancer recently.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't mention was, so I had my final kind of PET scan after chemotherapy. PET scan came back, no activity, which if you're ever going through a cancer situation, no activity are the two best words you could possibly hear. And so it was this great moment. But my mom was going through some stuff medically, and she had a scan like around the same time. And so a week to the day after I got my, hey, you're all clear information from my doctor, the scan came back for her in a way they're like, we're pretty sure it's like ovarian cancer. And I had this moment where I was like, give me a fucking break. I just went through all of this with myself, and you can't even give me time to breathe before this happens. And so there was real grief that was going on in that moment. And thankfully, to not keep people on the edge of their seats, it was not cancerous and she's fine.
Jesus. Okay.
But in that moment, I was just so overcome with what I had just gone through, on top of the idea that my mom's in her late 60s, and if it's cancer, things don't look good in that situation. I was like, this is it. I have to fucking lose a parent now, on top of everything I just went through. And so, yeah, maybe I kind of do identify with what some of those people were going through.
Yeah.
And what would I do in that situation? So, yeah.
It's just so scary. This is a scary world we're living in. Just like,
yeah,
it doesn't get any easier.
I will tell you, I have never ignored a text message or a phone call from my mom since then.
Yeah.
I have never given up an opportunity to see her. Like, it really does change your perspective on like, let's spend all the time we possibly can together. Yeah. Let's just end this on the most like downer of a moment. Do you think we can?
No, that's the uplift. That's the uplift. The lesson is that like cherish what you've got.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's no tomorrow. And get it out there. Like oh God, like, yeah. I genuinely want to feel like there, whatever reason we're put on this world for, that it's like, it's moments like this, however large you want, where it's like you're connecting with people, you're bonding with those people that you love. Like you just want, this is all we get. Like
we're going to die someday.
We're going to die someday.
Fucking do it.
Yeah.
Do it now.
It would just suck to like have not done anything.
Yeah.
Those regrets, like those, like, oh man, I should have done that thing. I should have texted my mom back. Like, it's kills me.
Well, that's why this podcast exists. When I was in between podcasts, I was like, something is missing. Something that I care about is not happening. And it was having conversations like this and being able to share them with people.
You wanted cake at your ARC party. That's what you wanted.
I want some cake at my goddamn ARC party. I'll tell you a funny story. So I was like, what am I going to call this podcast? And I couldn't figure out anything. And my girlfriend's a copywriter. And she's infinitely smarter than me. And I told her what the podcast idea was and everything. And she's like, what about ARC Party? I was like, no, that sounds okay. Maybe it's the best idea I've got right now. So I kind of settled on it. And but then I got a Facebook memory where there was a specific day where I had gotten like 3 or 4 arcs on NetGalley or something. Mm-hmm. And I posted about it and I said, it's an ARC party.
Oh my God.
And I was like, this is fate, man.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. So I want cake at my ARC party. Please, somebody, please, just one person.
One person. Justify our existence. I want cake at my ARC party.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Holy shit. Clay, man, I knew. So like, I've been doing this for a long time. And sometimes, I got to prepare. I got to be on my game because I don't know if this is going to, how much labor it's going to take to get the good stuff out of the person.
Yeah.
I knew that I could just show up, sit down, and this is going to be a great conversation no matter what. And you absolutely proved that true. And I think we're best friends now, although I really had a good time talking to Nat too. And now I'm going to have to look at, let's pause really quick and see how long Nat's episode was, because you might want to stretch it out. I talked to Nat for a while, so.
Oh my God. If you're telling me you talked to Nat longer than 2 hours and 27 minutes, I'm going to be like, we're staying on this fucker.
You're just going to keep me going. Let's see. Nat was, where are you, Nat?
It's the moment of truth.
2 hours and 4 minutes. You beat Nat.
Cassidy!
by a mile.
In your face!
I knew this was going to be great. I knew we were going to become the best of friends. And now really the only things that are hanging in the balance are, am I wrong about the Midwest not having good writing situations and conferences and stuff like that? And who wants cake at their ARC party? I think, right?
I mean, I'll answer question 1. You're absolutely wrong. We have proven without a doubt that there are cool events happening in the Midwest. I'll be at the AuthorCon in St. Louis. I'm trying to make it to the Tomes of Terror in October, and I'm busted on the what's the one in August? The
Books and Brews.
Books and Brews. I feel so bad.
Josh is going to be there. Malfi's going to be there.
Everyone. Well, that's the thing. Everybody who's there is in Chicago. Like that's all. Like that whole litany of people. They live there.
Yeah,
like it would take me 2 days to get to you, and
that's fair.
Yeah. So I'm saying.
Ooh, I just had a great idea. I found the solution. We will meet in the middle, and we'll just crash at Josh's house.
There you go. There you go. I like that idea. That's a perfect idea.
I'm actually gonna call Josh and be like, "Hey, Josh, let's do this."
I mean,
he would love it. He would love it.
If Josh were to have, all right, we're gonna have that. I know that we should end this podcast, but like you should keep this because we're gonna make Josh listen.
We're gonna hold him to it. Yeah.
We should convince him to like have some sort of like mini retreat with just like 4 or 5 folks, and like it's at his house, and like we'll bring our sleeping bags and we'll just tell like ghost stories or something, and like,
dude,
yeah,
he would do it. I'm sure he would do it, and so.
Right, you gotta make
I'm
it
going to
happen.
message him and tell him me and Clay have an idea. So
be like, after you listen to all 2.5 hours of the podcast, we have a great idea at the very, very end that you can't fast forward to because you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
At the ARC party.
But you can have your cake at the ARC party. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Clay, thanks so much, man. I took so much of your night up, and I really appreciate meeting you and having such a great conversation. Thank you so much.
This was a total blast. Thank you so much, man.